Hi, good morning, everyone. Actually, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Caroline Zakarian, and I work for the Office of Civics and Community Services. And today's program is going to be on disasters, financial preparation and recovery. And this is the second program in a series we have on supporting financial literacy. And it's brought to you by the Alliance for Economic Inclusion and LAPL. And today's speakers are Nora Perez and Deborah Franco from the Alliance for Economic Inclusion, and they're going to be talking about preparing for and recovering from financial disasters, and they're going to also give you saving tips at the end. And we're going to have a Q&A, a brief one at the end. Please send us your questions. And now here's Nora and Deborah. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
We'll go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. One more, please. Today we're going to talk about preparing financially for disasters, and not only preparing for them, but recovering from them when they happen. As you know, we're sort of in the middle of a financial and physical disaster all at once right now with the pandemic. This is something that not very many people truly prepared for. It's sort of unusual. It's not something that we've seen in our lifetimes prior. But there are ways to prepare for things of this nature, and then also to recover once you're in it and past it. So that's what we're going to cover today. Are you able to advance the slides? A little bit further, sorry. Next one. Next slide. So the key takeaway from this portion of the discussion is to save time, money, and stress when the disaster strikes. And this is by doing some preparation beforehand and being ready when these things happen. Next slide, please. So a lot of disasters, physical and or financial, can affect your finances. When you think of, say, for instance, the pandemic that we're in right now, both physical and financial disaster, a lot of businesses are closed, hospitals are overrun. These sorts of things can affect the costs of what you need on a normal basis, can increase the needs that you have, and also change the cost and availability of items that you use normally or you need in the pandemic or in the disaster itself. For instance, the run on toilet paper and cleaning wipes, right now. Normally these things would be on the shelf. A lot of times now you see that there's nothing on the shelves. So these sorts of things are what happen in the middle of disasters, and there are ways to prepare for them. Another thing going on right now is scams. So there are fake charities being set up for trying to help people through the disaster. There are also, fake government assistance emails, that sort of thing. So it's good to be aware of these things so that you know what to look for when they happen. Next slide, please. So this slide sort of gives you an idea of what things you can do to prepare. Some of them are fairly basic, making sure you have the insurance you need, setting aside an emergency fund. We'll talk later about emergency funds and savings and how that is necessary not only during a financial or physical disaster, but also just in general. So these are the items that we'll sort of touch on in this part of the discussion. Next slide, please. So first we discuss insurance. It is important to have insurance. If you own your home, homeowner's insurance, sometimes earthquake insurance. If you're renting, renter's insurance will cover the items that you have in your apartment or condo. It's good to have insurance. It's one of those things where you hope you never need to use it. And so you feel like you're throwing your money away, but on the rare occasion that you do use it, that money is well spent. Because it is very expensive to replace or repair the items that are broken or lost, in the case of an earthquake or, a theft or something of that nature. It is important to shop around. You don't want to have too much or too little insurance. And it's good to get multiple quotes so that you can make sure that you're getting the best deal for the insurance that you're purchasing. Next slide, please. This just lists the type of insurance. Obviously, automobile insurance, liability insurance is required. It's the law. Disability insurance is a good idea if you are working and something happens so that you can't work anymore. It will give you the ability to replenish some of your lost wages. Life insurance, renter's insurance, and homeowner's insurance. We touched on renter's and homeowner's insurance and how important those are to protect your valuables and the place where you live. Next slide, please. So why have an emergency savings fund? This is one of the things that so many people easily disregard. Look, I have bills, I've got to pay my bills. I don't have money for savings. I don't have money for things that are not an urgent need right now. But one of the things that you'll find, and Nora will touch on this later in her portion, is that an emergency savings, although it's sometimes difficult to do now, you can start small and it ends up saving you a lot of hassle and worry and stress later on. Next slide, please. So to build an emergency savings fund, you do want to set a realistic goal. I know there are a lot of economists out there that will say you need 6 months of income or 3 months of income or a year of income. I would say they're all right. You need to have as much as you possibly can because you don't know what's going to happen. In an instance like we're in now with the pandemic, a lot of frontline workers that cannot go to their jobs maybe are not able to collect any wages. And when the pandemic started, the shutdown started in March, we thought, okay, well, it'll be a couple of months. And here we are, 9-10 months later, and we're still in the thick of it. And things are looking better. But the point is that it's good to have as much emergency savings as you can because you don't know what's going to happen. And having it available will help, again, save you some stress and some worry later on. Next slide, please. So although you don't want to keep all of your savings under your mattress as cash, we don't recommend that. It is important to have some cash available in case of an emergency. A lot of people will recommend that you have small bills, ones, fives, tens, that sort of thing, and that you have the actual physical cash locked in either a safe or hidden someplace safe in your house so that you have access to it. Because if something happens to the electronic system, you may not be able to use your credit cards. You may not be able to use your ATM card to go access cash. So it's important to have some cash on hand. Just make sure that you don't have all your cash on hand. Again, Nora will touch on that later about creating a checking or savings account for the bulk of your savings. Next slide, please. Again, sort of in the same vein of not having access to the ATM. If you get a paper check for your job, for your paycheck, and you have to go deposit it into a bank or into an ATM, if the banks are closed or if the ATM is unavailable, then you don't have access to your paycheck. And that is critical. Many of us live paycheck to paycheck, and we need every single paycheck in order to pay our bills, keep food on the table. And so it's important that if you have the availability through your job to set up direct deposit, that you do so. And then that way, when you get paid, the money is already in your account. You don't have to worry about time or energy or effort to go deposit that separately physically as a check. Go ahead, next slide, please. Online and mobile banking, that is something that has, Nora and I actually work for a bank, and we have seen our customers' use of mobile and online banking explode during this pandemic. Our digital platform has so many more customers now because people are staying home to stay safe during the pandemic, social distancing, they're not out as much as they normally would be. And so a lot of people are using their phones to deposit checks, to make online transfers. So if your bank offers it, it is a very good idea for you to sign up for that. It makes it easier to transfer between accounts at the same bank, to pay your bills online. Anything that avoids a physical paper, purchase or check or something like that is more convenient and safer in a lot of cases. Next slide, please. So keeping your financial documents and information in a safe place. There are a lot of our documents are electronically stored. We have our bills or our other, if you have a will or a trust, something like that. A lot of times we have it scanned and kept on the computer, or some sort of electronic storage of the document. It is important to have a paper copy at times, and you can keep that in either a waterproof or fireproof safe or bag. And then that way you have it available. If you can't access it electronically, you do have it available to be able to access if you need it to reference. And then if you do keep it electronically, please be sure to password protect the document. It makes it a lot easier or safer for you to maintain that. And if something happens, if your system gets hacked or something of that nature, at least that information is safe. Are you able to go to the next slide? Oh, there we go. Okay. An emergency financial first aid kit. There are some references. The FEMA.gov website does have a full checklist of the items that you should have. I won't go through it now. It is sort of a longer list, but I would recommend that you go online and visit the site to see what it is that they recommend that you have available. And these are documents and other items that they recommend are readily available to you in your home, so that you can have them in case of an emergency. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, the key takeaway from this section was to make your life a lot easier during a financial disaster or physical disaster by making these preparations in advance. And then the next section we're going to talk about, let's see, can you go to the next slide, please? So recovering financially from disaster. So we're sort of still in the middle of the pandemic right now, but there are steps that you can do to recover even while we're in the midst of it. Next slide, please. So the key takeaway from this section is to develop a plan in advance so that once the disaster is subsiding or over, that you are ready to financially recover. Next slide, please. Excuse me. So this, again, the items that you need to worry about, I guess, or that you need to plan for recovery, your property, if you have, they say other than a home, because the home is generally, if you have a home, then that is covered by the insurance. Income and job, bills and expenses, protecting your money. These are things that you need to plan for in advance. Next slide, please. So if you have property other than a home, it's important to have the right insurance policies in place. And that's what we talked about with preparation. So if you have the proper insurance policies, then the recovery portion is dealing with the insurance companies to get that insurance to recover or repair the items that were lost during the disaster. A lot of times you can, use the insurance to make things right in your home, which will help you process things a little bit better. And then, I'm sorry, next slide. So with your home, even if you are dealing with an insurance company for the item, either the home itself or the items in your home, it is important to continue making your payments excuse me, to contact the bank or your landlord if you need some way to some sort of accommodations or some sort of plan. Make sure that you talk to them first. If you can talk to them early on in the process, it is a much better, it's usually a much better outcome than if you just let the payments lapse and then try to catch up later. Next slide, please. So with your job, apologies, I don't usually talk as much. With your job, it's very important to stay in touch with your employer. Right now, a lot of the employers have, through the government, CARES Act assistance, time off if you need to take care of your children, if they are not in school, and then other, if you have COVID-related illnesses for yourself or maybe a family member, and other benefits that are available now through the job or through the CARES Act assistance. Sorry, working from home. But it's important to keep in touch with them, to be aware of all. Emily, please go in the other room. Fine. Sorry, apologies. To be aware of what is available to you, to make sure that you have as much information as possible so that you can use the benefits that are available to you. Let's see. And then the other thing with unemployment, anecdotally, there are a lot of people that are having to follow up constantly with the unemployment insurance office. A lot of times they are overwhelmed, and it is on the recipient to follow up. It becomes a full-time job in and of itself to make sure that you're getting the benefits that you are entitled to. Next slide, please. So your bills and expenses. Again, it is important to continue paying your bills. A lot of times people may not have enough money to pay all of their bills, and so they need to figure out, well, which ones do I pay? We can't advise you not to pay any, but I would say that having a roof over your head is primary during a disaster or recovering from a disaster. So if you have a rent payment or a mortgage payment, again, talk with your landlord, talk with your bank, make sure that they're aware that you're going through some difficulty and that they can make a plan with you to make it work, to make the payments work. Okay, next slide, please. So protecting your money, a lot of times, and this reverts back to the discussion about fraud, check your credit reports, because during a financial disaster, unfortunately, the people who are excellent fraudsters, they very much are on high alert right now, because it is something that they can take advantage of, people being in distress or people being willing to help others, that sort of thing. So it's important to review your credit reports, make sure that there isn't anything unusual on there. Check in with your bank statements, make sure that those are accurate, that there aren't any withdrawals that you don't recognize. To make sure that, it references here, contact the post office, find a safe place for financial information. Hopefully, again, the financial information is in your home in a fireproof or waterproof safe, or stored electronically, password protected. Next slide, please. So be proactive. So this one mostly focuses on making sure that you address the situation rather than having the situation address you. So if you find that there's something wrong, make the effort to contact either the company or if it's a regulatory agency that needs to be contacted, depending on the level of fraud or errors or whatever it may be. But it is important, and although it is time consuming, it is important for you to be proactive to make sure that these things don't fall through the cracks. Next slide, please. So there are lots of assistance websites. For instance, this one has disasterassistance.gov and the FEMA website, local disaster relief. You'll find organizations, Salvation Army, or other organizations that are trying to help people who are in need, reach out to them, look for them. Again, you can go to the FEMA website, and there will be probably links to other sites as well, but reach out to the people that are offering help, your employer, et cetera, and make sure you use the help that is available to you. Next slide, please. So this is more information about what is available. So, for instance, right now for small businesses, there was a Paycheck Protection Program loan, what's called an EIDL loan for emergency disaster assistance. The government has a lot of programs available for small businesses, and these are things that even if you're not a small business, there are individual assistance programs available as well. So it's important that you actually reach out to them and make sure that you are, again, getting the help that is available to you. Next slide, please. Again, the scams. You definitely want to be, like I said, unfortunately, fraudsters do not take a break during financial and physical disasters. So it's important to be on the lookout, be aware. When you get emails, don't simply click the link. If you are not expecting an email, or if it looks a little shady, if there's a lot of spelling errors, or it urges you right away, you got to respond. Those are sort of the tips that may not be a legitimate email. So be aware of these things. Think before you click. That's what our IT department always tells us. But make sure that you are aware, so that you don't accidentally give your information to a fraudster who will obviously use it for their benefit and to your detriment. Next slide, please. Again, you can check references. There are a lot of the charity organizations right now are really doing all they can to help the people most in need. So if you do want to donate to them or work with them or something like that, just check their references. You can look them up online. You can call someone else if they're referred. That's a good way to use it. But definitely we don't want to discourage donating. We just want to make sure that any dollars you donate go to the people who are actually trying to help others versus into someone else's wallet. Yeah.
Debbie, you could actually check on charitynavigator.com. Yes. And you could check any nonprofit there you could see also their finances and everything. So it's a helpful website.
Charitynavigator.com. Thank you, Nora. I actually was on that yesterday to check out something. They give the full rundown. So that's a good place to check charity organizations to see whether they're legitimate and to see how much of the money that they collect actually goes to the programs that they're funding. So thank you, Nora. That was a good one. Next one, please. Next slide, please. So towards the end of and after a financial disaster or physical disaster, you're probably very stressed and wondering how am I going to recover from this and how am I going to get back to normal. There is, we have to remember that there is no returning to the old normal. There's the new normal, whatever it may be. So take some time, sort of get used to that. Allow yourself to grieve. If you've lost your home, for instance, or if you've lost somebody or something, that is a huge deal for a lot of us. And it does take time to sort of take that all in and to recover from that. But once you've done that, once you've taken that time, then you do need to take control again of your finances, of your situation, your home situation, your work situation, that sort of thing. So it is important, again, to put these things into place so that when that time comes, you literally have a checklist right in front of you instead of having to come up with everything from scratch. So that's the key here is to find the new normal and then to get back into the flow of things and to make sure that you are on track to stay financially sound. Next slide, please. So again, developing the plan in advance, following your plan, and then recovering from that plan, or using the plan to recover. And I think that's the best way to sort of get through this. Of course, there, especially now when you consider the pandemic, there are a lot of things to think about. Many of us have loved ones who have been sick, some of whom who have been in the hospital. Or our nurses working in hospitals, doctors, frontline employees that are just stressed to the max. And so, having these plans in place helps us to at least have that part of it dealt with, so that we can focus our attention on the other aspects of this. Next slide, please. So this references, if you want more information on any of these specific items, you can go to fdic.gov/education, which is referenced at the bottom of the slide. And that one will actually have this information, have some additional details and references and resources for you if you should need it. And I think that concludes my portion. I'd like to turn it over to Nora. If you want to do the LA Saves, the America Saves.
I think I had myself on mute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So hi, I'm Nora. Thank you, Debbie, for all the information. I am going to speak about American Saves and LA Saves. It's a campaign managed by the nonprofit Consumer Federation of America. It seeks to motivate, encourage, and support low to moderate income households. And it's a tool that empowers to make a plan on how we spend and save. And we do that by providing simple and practical tools, advice, and strategies to increase your financial stability. And next, please. And almost anyone can save, right? An American Saves survey showed that a lot of people have a mindset that they are that they're not capable of saving. But there's are steps to get into the mentality of savings, like Debbie said. Mentioned. There's a set a goal. You set a goal, more likely to succeed. First of all, what you want to save for. You want to save for emergency fund, pay for college or a vacation, of course, after this pandemic. And if you name your goal, you'll reach it faster. Even if you're just saving for a rainy day, you're more likely to succeed if you have a goal amount in mind. It could be $5, $10, $20 a month. And also make a plan. Twice more likely to succeed for those who don't. Save more during the pandemic. That might be otherwise have spent on things like movie tickets or restaurant meals. Begin with the starter emergency fund, whatever amount you're comfortable with. Save automatically. Pay yourself first. Like they always say, pay yourself first. It means simply this: pay before you pay your bills, before you buy groceries, before you do anything else. Set aside a portion of your income to save. Put the money into your savings account, your 401k, or a piggy bank. It could be $5, $10, like I said. The first bill you pay each month should be to yourself. Next, please. Yeah. And then take the LA Pledge today to set a savings goal and receive motivational text messages and emails to help you stay on track. Signing up is easy and free. Primary method of pledging is actually a promise to yourself that you are going to save money. All we do is help you get to your goal. We need a valid address and pledge to take the pledge, and you could visit the website lasaves.org. It's in English and Spanish, And then also by texting 877-877 LA Saves. Next, please. And this is also if you opt to do the texting, text LA Saves to 877 to pledge and save. So it'll give you a next, please. It'll take you, if you go online or on text, it'll take you to this website. You take the pledge today, click on English or Spanish, and next, please. And here's you're going to tell us a little bit about your goal and how long it will take you to meet it, and your name and last name and what goal you're looking for, where you're saving for. Next, please. And this is also we need your information such as an email address, and also if you like to text messages and reminders to that LA Saves will send you, just to give you a motivational to motivate you to save. Next, please. Actually, the last page. The LA Saves will save you motivational resources for savers. They'll send you monthly emails with tips and advice, quarterly e-news and information and stories. And you could go online as well and just look at you could actually increase your savings as well. It's not so much that that we don't require any information. You could put your money in your bank. You could put your money in a piggy bank or anywhere else. Just all we are doing here in LA Saves is for you to, we're encouraging you to save money, and that's how, and meet your goal. And that's what we're simply doing. It's if you want to go onto the website and lasaves.org and sign up today, so you can get started. Thank you. Any questions? Oh, we do have a couple of questions, Debbie, on the chat. Carolyn.
Yeah, I have questions too, but you guys go ahead first.
So someone asked that how are okay? Am I I think. Can you answer that one, the first one, Debbie? I'm trying to.
Let's see. I do know someone is asking. Okay, go play. Someone was asking, is it more important to save, to start a savings account or to pay off bills? And again, that's sort of a tough one. It is very important to have a savings account. Although, many people say it's very hard to save anything because I literally can't even pay all my bills every month. The one thing that we recommend is, and as Nora said, it could be $5 a month, $10 a month, something very small. It builds with time. But if there is an emergency and you don't have an emergency fund available, then you are left either stranded, or if you have a credit card, you are now putting debt on your credit card to get through this emergency. So even though it's hard, we do recommend, and like Nora said, start small, start with $5 a month or $10 a month, but create that plan and get that money started. And if you put it into the savings account, if you have a savings account at a bank, even though interest rates are very low right now, there is interest on top of interest. So as you save, your savings will grow steadily as long as you commit to that goal and stick with it. And then if there is an emergency that comes up, you have the funds to pay for that emergency without having to either go without or go into more debt, in order to pay for that emergency. So that would be our recommendation.
And always pay yourself first. It could be just, like you said, it's $5, or even $1. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just, if you continue with that mindset and just increase your savings.
That's so true. And Nora said $1, and people are like, well, what is $1? Well, after a full year, if you're saving $1 a week, that's $52. That's $52 that you wouldn't normally have if you didn't save that $1 a week. And as time goes on, that $52 will build for you. So I think that it does seem small, but everything big is made up of a bunch of tiny things. And so when you start small, it grows on itself and will eventually be, I think you guys have heard the term nest egg, having a substantial nest egg, an emergency savings fund. Having that money set aside will alleviate a lot of stress later on, because you'll be able to cover whatever emergency comes up.
Someone asked if if the presentation is going to be online. I believe so. Carolyn?
I'm sorry, what was the yes. It's going to be streaming. You can watch it at least for a few days afterwards. So the whole thing is going to be on our YouTube and Facebook channels. So yeah, it should be available. And if there's any resources, we will also put them on our website as well. Go ahead with the questions.
And then someone else asked if there's a Spanish-speaking representative. There is going to be an event, and I'll send it to you, Carolyn. There's going to be an event in Spanish, and I could send it to you. And it's at one of the other libraries. I believe it's December 10th.
Okay.
It looks like somebody asked for an individual that lives on a fixed income, either disability or Social Security, how can that person prepare a savings plan, and are they allowed to have a savings plan? That's a good question. It is much harder if you're on a fixed income to do a savings plan, but it is not impossible, and it is allowed. It's one of those things where you probably will have to start off small. Like Nora said, a few dollars a month, if possible. But that is something, regardless of what your income is, we encourage everybody to save. And like Nora said, pay yourself first. A lot of times what makes it a little bit easier is if you have, if your income, whether it's a fixed income source or if it's from a job, if you have direct deposit set up, a lot of times they will allow a second, you can split your deposit up into two. And so if you decide to do $5 a month and your paycheck is $200 and $5 of it automatically goes into your savings account and the other, $195 goes into checking. Sociologists will say that if you don't see it, it's easier for you to part with it. In other words, if your paycheck, if you assume that your paycheck is $195 and you don't even see that $5 that goes into savings, then you plan on using the $195 to spend. And so it's easier if you pay yourself through direct deposit, where you don't have to take that money out and put it into savings. It's put in there automatically. Then it's a much easier way to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
It looks like someone is asking, what are the first steps I should take towards home ownership? That is a good question, and right now there's a lot of activity in the market, people buying and selling homes. The best thing for you to do is to make sure that your FICO score is as high as it can be. For those of you who are not familiar with a FICO score, it's sort of an assigned number that the financial gurus give to everybody based on their payment histories and basically how risky you are to give credit. So most people do not buy a house outright with cash. We take out a mortgage, which is a loan from a bank to buy a home. And the rate that you pay for that mortgage is determined by your FICO score. So if you have a low FICO score, either because you're just starting off, or maybe you've had some problems in the past, financial problems, late payments, or bankruptcies, that sort of thing. The best thing for you to do for home ownership is primarily to make sure that your FICO score is as high as it can be, which means, making sure that all of your payments are at the very least the minimum due, on time, never make a late payment. If you don't have any credit, and it's hard to get credit sometimes, you can do, a lot of banks will offer a secured credit card where you take some portion of money as a, you put it into an account, and then they'll give you credit based on that portion. So if you put $500 into an account, they'll give you a $500 credit limit. That's a good way to build your credit as well, because as you use it and pay it on time and at least the minimum, your credit score will go up. In addition to that, there are a lot of programs for first-time home buyers. If you're a first-time home buyer, the government does have a lot of programs for first-time home buyers that will give them a better rate or a lower down payment, sometimes a combination of the two. So again, make sure that you monitor your FICO score, that it's as high as it can be, and that you do the research on the government assistance that might be available for a special first-time home buyer's mortgage. Hopefully that answers the question. I don't know if there are any other questions.
I don't think.
Okay, I have a question. Is there anything like a good debt? Is there any such thing as a good debt, you would say?
Good debt, I would say, usually, it's best not to have any debt. That would be the ideal, right? None of us have any debt, no mortgage, no car payment, no credit cards. But the reality is that it's very hard. Things are expensive, and it's very hard to live without some sort of debt. I would say, for good debt, I would say if it's an investment. If it's an investment, so buying that awesome pair of shoes and paying $300 for them on a credit card, I would not say that is good debt. Somebody might, because they're awesome shoes. But the reality is that if I think Nora and I would probably agree that the best good debt would be if it's an investment. For instance, student loans. She mentioned school debt. If you are going to school and you need to take out student loans in order to go to school, to go to college or a trade school or something like that, if it is investing in your future and giving you the ability to have a better job later and to earn more money later, to be able to save, like Nora said, or buy that house or that sort of thing, then I would say that would probably be classified as good debt.
And it's tax deductible.
What's that?
It's tax deductible.
So I had to take out student loans to go to college, and at the time they felt like a huge burden. But now I was able to get, because I went to college, I was able to get the jobs that I got. I was able to be where I am today, and I'm grateful. And the student loans are gone finally, but it took a while. But it was an investment, and I do consider it good debt because it did allow me to get the education that I needed in order to get the job that I needed and put me where I am today.
Yeah.
Good. I was actually going to ask you about the FICO score, but I think you already.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it's everybody has one, whether you want one or not. And it's important. It's important to monitor, your financial, your payments, making sure your payments are on time, at least the minimum, that sort of thing. And there are ways to build that score if it's not as high as you'd like it to be. And they do take time, but that's an investment as well. Your time and effort will result in, possibly, several percentage points lower in interest, which, could mean the difference if you're buying a home, for instance, could mean the difference of several $100,000 over the life of the loan. So yeah, it is important to, and again, whether you want one or not, you've got one. So you might as well make sure.
Take care of it.
Oh, I know.
Pay the bills on time.
No, we were
save money by paying bills on time.
Yeah, we were just refinancing our house, and then I'm like, oh, that's what my score is now. They have to pull it and all that stuff. I was like, oh.
Yeah. But, Nora mentioned too, you can save money. The other thing, not only keeping your FICO score higher, but when you pay bills on time, you avoid late fees.
Yes.
A lot of times your interest rate will go up, or they'll have to tack on a penalty fee, and all of that adds up to sometimes substantial amounts of money. So it's important to keep an eye on that. It looks like somebody just asked, when paying off a credit card or paying off credit card debt, do you suggest getting a loan and consolidating it, or paying each one slowly? So I think that depends on what sort of interest rate you have and the balances you have. If you're paying 15 or 20% on a credit card, or several credit cards, if you have the ability to consolidate into one loan that is smaller, meaning lower interest rate. Yeah, lower interest rate, then that is right. I mean, the less interest you're paying, the better. The problem is a lot of people will take advantage of that, the consolidation loan, but then they run up their credit cards again. And so that defeats the purpose. The whole point of putting it into a consolidation loan is to pay it off, at less interest, and to actually pay it off. So as long as you are careful with that, if you have that available to you, a consolidation loan that is lower interest rate, and you make it a point to not run up your credit cards again. I wouldn't cancel them, because that will affect your FICO score. But leave them open with the balance, with zero balances, and just focus all of your energy on paying off that consolidation loan. And I will tell you, much like the student loans, when you make that last payment, it's such a weight off your shoulders, and it really feels good. It really feels good. So.
Are there any other questions?
No, it looks like somebody just wanted to confirm that the webinar is going to be recorded and available on the YouTube channel that you guys have. And I think that the answer was yes. Is that correct?
Yeah. It should be streaming. You can still, because it's a streaming event, you should still be able to view it at least several days after the event. And we are good. We should be able to also send slides as well if people just want the slides. I'm trying to see. I think if you email us at Lifelong Learning, we can send the email. We can put up the email address. Give me 1 minute. Yes, there we go. Yes, you can. Anyone that has a question, if they want to have any slides or anything, you can send us an email, lifelonglearninglapl.org, and then we will send you the slides for the presentation as well. Does anyone have any other questions? My last question was about you've already answered it as well. I was going to ask about emergency savings or paying off debt, but I think, yes, you talked about it in the beginning, so I think I'm good. Okay, I just want to, if there's no other questions, I want to thank Nora and Debbie for this wonderful presentation, and we are going to be having more financial literacy presentations in the coming months. So if everyone can go to our website, the updated information will be on there. And if people do want the slides, lifelonglearninglapl.org. And then it is going to be still streaming for another few days on our Facebook and YouTube pages. So you can still view the whole presentation if you'd like. And I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming today and giving up your time. And we got wonderful tips. I sure did. I learned a lot. So
we're happy to do it. So thanks for having us.
Thank you guys. Okay. And we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.